Joey Fawcett, and I'm laughing because something happened that happened to me once early in my career, and that is I thought I was live and I wasn't. Um, and that's pretty hard when you find that out. In fact, one time I was standing live in front of a room of 1,200 people in a speaking engagement, and my microphone wasn't on, and no one could hear me. So there's nothing worse than thinking you're live when you're not. So anyway, that's an ironic beginning, right? So I understand we're 8 minutes late here. That's an ironic beginning for this month's Work Positive Live experience on how to change at work, transform negative chaos into a positive culture. So adversity shows up, and we're going to talk about adversity today. So I guess I just experienced that. I wasn't live. I thought I was alive, but I was actually dead. So, but I've come back to life. So how's that working out for you? All right, let's talk about your adversity instead of mine for just a minute and your ability to change at work. Transform negative chaos into a positive culture. And I'm just going to take a peek over here and make sure we're live. And we are. There we are. Ta-da. Okay, here we go. That's a ta-da moment. My friend Joel Zeff likes to say ta-da a lot. So let's think about your adversity. Your boss announced he's adding more responsibility to your already full position description. Anybody had that happen lately? Mm-hmm. Your most talented leader, in fact, the one that you plan to promote, resigned over lunch. Your AI EAP strategy just got disrupted by a price increase, never a decrease, right? Right before you rolled it out. You see, change intrudes on the best of us, sneaking up and delivering a sucker punch weekly, if not daily. So change, this kind of change is chronic, and many times it's acute, so much so that you might wake up wondering, what's going to change today? Yeah, then you realize you're waking up just as tired as you went out. You went to sleep, right? You wake up as tired with the lights out. Anybody woke up just as tired as when you went to bed? Drop a yes in the comments right now. I know we're only 21 days into 2026, but if in these 21 days you woke up as tired as you went to sleep, just drop a yes in the comments. Yeah. The temptation, I know. Yes. The temptation is to pull the covers back up and just roll over, right? It's exhausting swimming upstream in this current of negative chaos that you can't redirect it, you can't control it. So what do? But the truth is, the naked truth is, your attitude toward all this change that wears you out so much as a people leader, your attitude toward this change and all the negative chaos, it sucks, right? I mean, just the mention of the word change causes you to break out in hives. So what's a talented and gifted, brilliant, and hardworking people leader like you to do? The purpose of this live Work Positive experience today is to help you figure out what to do in the midst of all this change, to help you discover how to take that negative chaos of change and transform it into a positive culture, a work positive culture. You've got the privilege of learning along with me today from 9 remarkable leaders that I interviewed on the Work Positive podcast, and I learned so much from them. They helped me figure out how to create cultures that do more than survive change. In fact, they have leveraged change to their competitive advantage so that they grow people and profits. So what I've done is taken these 9 brilliant culture architects, plus my own 40 plus years of experience creating positive work cultures, and created a framework for you to start using today so that you can take that negative chaos of change and make a work positive culture out of it, transform it. In fact, the word transform is the one we're really going to focus on today. If you've been on one of these before, watched one of these before, you know that I like to use words as acronyms so they're easy for us to remember. Transform is our acronym today. So what does the T in transform stand for? It stands for transform turmoil into triumph. Dave Sanderson is a friend of mine, lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. He was flying home from a business trip on U.S. Airways flight 1549 on January 15, 2009. 60 seconds after takeoff, both engines exploded simultaneously and the plane headed down into the Hudson River. Dave's life changed forever over the next 24 minutes, not just because he survived what we call now the miracle on the Hudson, but because of the choice he made in that chaos. Now, if you've heard of this famous plane crash, the Miracle on the Hudson, we call it now, from January 15, 2009, that was 17 years ago last week, right? Drop a yes in the comments. If you've heard of the Miracle on the Hudson before, just drop a yes in the comments. Dave changed forever in only 24 minutes. Now, what changed for him? Well, first of all, he realized that unexpected adversity shows up, just like it did a few minutes ago for me when I thought I was live and I was actually dead in the water, right? Unexpected adversity shows up. The plane goes down metaphorically at work and in your culture on a regular basis, if not all the time. So the question is not whether or not adversity is coming. It's coming. There's nothing personal about it. You, along with all your colleagues, can expect it. The best question is, how will you respond when that adversity does show up? Here's how Dave recommended to us on his Work Positive podcast episode that we respond when adversity shows up. Let's listen to it in Dave's words.
I think one of the things I work on with my team and I coach and mentor other people to do is what happened on the plane that day. First thing you got to do is you got to keep your head. And I think a lot of people get very emotional very quickly, because they may take it as a personal situation. It's just business. Mm-hmm. Business changes quickly. So the first step that I always tell people, first thing is keep your head. Mm-hmm. Don't get emotional, and ask the question, what does this really mean?
Hey, mental mindset is the engine that flies the plane of your transformation from turmoil to triumph. In fact, that's the first step in this transform framework for a reason. It determines how well you leverage the negative chaos into a positive culture. Or as I like to say, work positive culture starts or stops in your head. So that's exactly what Dave is talking about there. Dave says the way to do that is to invest in your mental mindset daily. Dave chooses to give his team an audiobook every month. Let's listen to Dave describe in his own words from the podcast all about mindset.
Positive things in your head, right? Because it all starts with your mindset.
Yes.
That day on the plane, it could have gone a whole different direction. There are many times when things are going sideways, literally going sideways, right? Mm-hmm. All I was saying is, Joey said, I got to share in my blog this week about having faith without hesitation. Right? Mm. Have gratitude. Gratitude will come to you one way or another.
So here's your do one thing challenge for each of these items in the framework. This one being the T in transform turmoil into triumph. I'm going to give you a do one thing challenge, or a DOT challenge, as I like to call it. So this is a tactic that you can begin implementing today. As a people leader, choose one positive resource like a book or an audiobook, a podcast, or maybe a course that will grow you as a people leader, okay? Because it all must begin with you. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And I want to challenge you to commit to investing at least 10 minutes every day in that positive resource. Now, a great place to start is Dave Sanderson's Work Positive podcast episode. In fact, you can go to workpositive.today/change podcast. We'll drop that in the comments for you right now. Workpositive.today/change podcast. And you can find Dave's episodes and Dave's episode and all the other episodes that inform this framework right there as well. So we begin with the T in the transform framework. That's for transform turmoil into triumph. Now, this path of transformation that we're on here to take the negative chaos and transform it into a positive work culture for you. This path of transformation is filled with uncertainty. Questions are going to pop up in your mind as you go along, like, what will we experience? Where are we going? What will we do after the initial change? So the answer lies in the R transform framework, and that R stands for relentless. Relentless vision overcomes uncertainty. Now, you may realize this, you may not, but your brain is obsessed with certainty. So is mine. We crave it, we chase it, we pretend we have it, even when we don't. Our brain literally prefers the familiarity of knowing because we don't have to work our brains. Our minds can relax when we know the context, the situation, or the work culture. Where actually our brain rewards us with little squirts of dopamine and serotonin when we work the way we've always worked. It's familiar. The truth is, certainty's gone today and it's not coming back. And the way that we've always worked is no longer relevant, sometimes not even applicable. COVID really began this or heightened it or shone the light on all this lack of certainty in the VUCA world, as we'll talk about in a few moments. During that COVID shutdown, prescriptions for antidepressants, which are our brains weren't getting little squirts of dopamine and serotonin that they were, so we needed antidepressants. Prescriptions for antidepressants were up 30% during COVID, and they've not really relaxed. Many of us continued because the pace of uncertainty, the chaos, the negative chaos, the change has continued to increase. Our brains found very little familiar in the face of all this seismic waves of change. So how do you as a people leader transform this negative chaos into a positive culture when so much uncertainty rules today? My work positive guest, Meredith Elliott Powell, has studied companies that thrived for centuries, some of them since the 1700s, in fact. All of these companies successfully navigated wars and economic collapses, even technological revolutions like the one we're going through now. Those companies are still here and they're still growing. So what do those companies know about how to transform uncertainty that you don't? That's the R in transform framework, and that's for relentless vision overcomes uncertainty. Now, what is relentless vision? Back in 18 and 19, the economy was running hot, and that was pre-COVID. Who remembers the hot pre-COVID economy back in 18 and 19? I mean, we were rocking, right? Drop a yes in the comments if you remember how easy things seemed back then, right? In 18 and 19. I mean, we should have all been celebrating, but we weren't. And Meredith says there's a reason why we weren't. Let's listen to Meredith describe it from her Work Positive podcast episode.
Well, because everybody, if we can go back to 2018 and 19, before we ever heard of COVID, before we ever thought about the things that we were dealing with today, the economy was running hot. Everybody was doing incredibly well, seeing unprecedented growth. Mm-hmm. But every business owner I talked to was saying, but this uncertainty, as if we were all waiting for the ball to drop. And we believed that when the ball would drop, it would be the end of our success. And I just started to think, why does uncertainty always have to be negative? And what if you could shift your mindset around that? What if you believed that even in your darkest hour, your best opportunity was just on the other side? How far could you go and what could you accomplish? So that's where my obsession became, is I wanted to find people, organizations, businesses, leaders who had actually done that.
So what Meredith's saying is, even in our best moments, we look over our shoulder. We just find it difficult to enjoy success without predicting disaster. Her research revealed that success and uncertainty does not belong to those with the best leaders, the most resources, the biggest budgets. It belongs to those with clarity about where they're headed. The brain finds what it focuses on. Meredith calls this relentless vision. It's more than just a framed statement on the wall. It's a vision that you obsess over. You talk about it constantly. It lives in every work conversation, every ROI decision, every culture challenge. And organizations that have clearly articulated visions are 2.7 times more likely to achieve their strategic objectives during uncertainty. Your vision provides clarity of the what without demanding certainty about the how. Or as my friend Dr. Bob Johansson says so often, the antidote to uncertainty is not certainty, it's clarity. So the question for you to ask yourself as a people leader is, where do I focus my team? On the negative chaos or the opportunities to transform it into a work positive culture? So here's your do one thing challenge relative to relentless vision. Huddle up your team. Now, this activity will Take about 30 minutes, but you probably meet with them on a regular basis anyway. And there are 3 questions we want you to ask here. First, what are we doing well that's working? Secondly, what worked before but isn't working now? And thirdly, what do we need to be doing that we're not? Facilitate your team's choice of one thing to do in each of those categories and set up an accountability plan to follow through. And you will have created, my friend, a relentless vision that will help you overcome uncertainty. So the T in our transform framework is to transform turmoil into triumph. We will lead consistently with relentless vision. That's the R in transform, that overcomes the uncertainty. That leaves the question of how do you adapt to all this change management? And that brings us to the A in the transform framework, and that is for adaptability quotient. Adaptability quotient, AQ, is vital. I don't know if you know Tom or not, but Tom built a successful company over 20 years, 2 decades. Then AI, like it has with so many of us, hit his industry like a sledgehammer smashing eggs. And his response was, oh, I'll just wait this out. AI will be over shortly. Tom chose to remain in his comfort zone, and it is not keeping him safe. It's, in fact, keeping him stuck, and he's watching as his revenue drops. Being stuck in the negative chaos literally moves your organization, your company backwards. And that's the opposite direction you want to go in, towards a positive culture, right? So how do you move forward despite all the change at work becomes the question. So you've probably heard of IQ, intelligence, right? EQ, emotional intelligence. It may be a new player for you, so I want to introduce you today to AQ, and that's adaptability quotient. AQ, adaptability quotient. McKinsey studied human skills that are going to be required to thrive by 2030. Care to guess what topped the list? It was not a 4.0 GPA. It was not decades of experience. It was adaptability. In fact, the World Economic Forum found that 16 out of 20 industries identified adaptability as the top skill employers seek. The rate of change at work only increases between 2026 and 2030. Employees have got to adapt well to transform the negative chaos into a positive culture that grows people and profits. Now, that's a real challenge for us today to develop adaptability skills. The biggest contributor to that challenge is the fact that as Gallup has tracked employee engagement, they've done that for 40 years. In January of 2024, hard to believe 2 years ago, January of 2024, U.S. employee engagement hit an 11-year low. Gallup found that only 30% of employees reported being fully engaged. And what was worse? Yeah, it doesn't get better. Only 9% of those surveyed are engaged at work and thriving in their lives. So Gallup chose the word miserable to describe us today as U.S. workers. Since 91% of us are disengaged at work, we're struggling in life, or both. So the question becomes, how will you move beyond the misery and adapt to the change that we've all allowed to disengage us somewhat? And that's where AQ comes in, adaptability quotient. It's a great indicator. How do you develop? How do you transform the negative chaos into a positive culture? So who besides me wants to develop a higher AQ or adaptability quotient? Drop yes in the comments right now. Who wants a higher AQ? Well, we're going to find out how to do that right now from Ira Wolf. Ira was my guest on the Work Positive podcast. And as with all my guests, my final question to them is, what's one thing the Work Positive community can do starting today to create a work positive culture? Ira is focused on high AQ. Here's what he said is the best way that we can develop a high AQ.
But I would start with the growth mindset. That has been transformative. It has been transformative in my life. If you're anyone out there is thinking, I'm too old for this, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at tech, I'm not good at something. You're leaning on the fixed mindset side.
Yep.
You definitely, the number one place to start, it will elevate all boats, is growth mindset. From a leader standpoint, I would encourage everybody struggling, go back to what we talked about. It's not just, are they engaged at work? Are people thriving? Help people be more successful, help people grow. It's not about perks. It's not about giving them childcare benefits and more days off and PTO. It's help people feel significant, help people feel like they matter, help them deal with their personal issues. And again, that's going to come through improving their adaptability. Adaptive organizations are more progress, are more profitable, more innovative, more successful.
All right, here's your do one thing challenge around AQ, adaptability quotient. Ask yourself, what is one area where I feel stuck or I'm resistant to change? Just name one area. You may have several. What's one area where you feel stuck or resistant to change? Secondly, ask yourself, what's my fixed mindset belief that's shaping that area? In fact, Ira gave us some great suggestions there. One of them may be, hey, I'm not good at technology, therefore I'm scared of AI. Whatever yours is, what's that belief? Write that down. Now, let's flip what you just wrote down and rewrite it from a growth mindset. For example, you can say, I'm not good at technology, I'm a little fearful of AI, but I'm willing to learn it. You see that but's a transition word there, but I'm willing to learn. And what you can do is you can begin practicing this growth mindset rewrite every time that you feel like you're getting stuck. So that's how we can reframe. That's how we can adapt to all the negative chaos. And that is the A in the transform framework. Adaptability quotient, AQ, is vital. It will continue to be vital. And you'll see the benefits very, very quickly of your own higher AQ as well as those on your team. So that brings us to the N in the transform framework. This is one for you as a people leader. It's especially for you and will prepare you to be a better people leader. The N in transform is for the need to know yourself better. So your self-awareness transforms your people leadership. So I want to ask you a true false, and you can just put a T or an F in the comments here. T or F in the comments. The first person we lie to is ourselves. The first person we lie to is ourselves. True or false? It's true. The reality is that change creates so much negative chaos around us that we wish we could rewrite it. We want to create an alternative reality. We think we can, and so we begin lying to ourselves. We buy that lie and we begin lying to ourselves. And we begin to say to ourselves, hey, if I can believe this lie, maybe I can get somebody else on my team to believe it too. So maybe I can walk around with blinders on. I'm unable or unwilling to see my own flaws, my own deficiencies, the way I impact others from those during this onslaught of change. Maybe I can get them to buy the lie with me. So we begin to lie not only to ourselves, which we do first, we begin to lie about the negative chaos of change to others. It's not that bad. And that's what we say to ourselves first. It'll pass soon. And then we begin telling that to the people we lead. Friends, that lie kills your work culture from the inside out. So how do you avoid lying to yourself first and then to your team that this change can somehow go away or it's not really there or it'll pass? You need to know yourself as you change at work and as you transform the negative chaos to a positive culture that grows people and profits. Nicole L. Turner was my guest on the Work Positive podcast, and she did a great job of describing for us. So let's listen to her now. She did a great job of describing for us our need to know ourselves better so that we can lead people better during change. Let's listen to Nicole now.
Because a lot of people, believe it or not, they are wearing blinders to themselves. I say it's one thing when people lie to other people, but it's another thing when people lie to themselves, right? And they have a difficulty it's just human nature. We have a challenge with our, what we see as our flaws and our deficiencies. And we don't want to accept that internally because of how it makes us feel and how it makes us see ourselves. And so it's very difficult for us to be self-aware if we are that type of personality where we really can't handle the truth, right? But I think we don't become better people, better individuals, better human beings until.
So I realized this do one thing challenge will make you uncomfortable, makes me uncomfortable. I've done it. I'm going to do it again. I try to do it on a regular basis. This do one thing challenge is, I promise, it helps you resolve this need to know yourself better so that you can lead people better, especially in the midst of all the change today. Just choose 5 people who know you well. Okay. Not only do they know you well, hopefully they want what's best for you in your life. And just ask them this one question. Hey, what's one thing I do that helps our relationship thrive? Listen, take notes mentally or however you prefer to take notes. Then ask them this follow-up question. And what's one thing I do that gets in the way of our relationship? So what's one thing I do that helps our relationship thrive? And what's one thing I do that gets in the way? Now, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to listen without defending yourself, to look for patterns in their responses, and then to choose to develop through this self-awareness so that you become a better leader of people, especially in the midst of change. So the N in the transform framework is for your need to know yourself as you change so that you become a better leader. So now we're up to the 5th step for you to implement as you leverage change, and that's the S in the transform framework. And this helps you ensure that strategy aligns with culture, and literally putting culture first increases profits. When I interviewed Dr. Anthony Wade for the Work Positive podcast, he reminded me of one of my favorite culture quotes of all time. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. And Peter Drucker, the famous management guru, is credited with saying that for the first time. Well, let's listen to Dr. Wade. Here's what he told me about why it's so important for us to align culture and strategy.
The one thing that I think is most important is to match strategy with culture. Understand what your culture is, and then make sure that whatever vision you have, whatever next step philosophy that you develop aligns with your culture. If you do, then you'll find that the culture will help support your change. If you don't, take this as gospel. Culture will overshadow strategy each and every time. It's important that if people understand that, if organizations understand that, then they've got a chance at improving the culture. You don't want to change the entire organization at once. You focus on a few different types of behaviors in your culture that you want to improve on, and utilize those safe space conversations to get feedback from employees as to how to best go about achieving the change that you want, and receive the feedback no matter what format it's presented in or how it's framed. Accept it as it is, and as I stated earlier, pick out the key components, the key elements of it that align with where you want to go as an organization.
So often we think if we just come up with the best strategy to effect change, right, we'll be fine. As Dr. Wade pointed out, strategy must align with culture. And if it doesn't, then the culture will subsume. It'll eat strategy's breakfast every single time. 70%, in fact, of change initiatives fail, not because of strategic flaws in the plan, but because of cultural resistance. Organizations that align culture with strategy before implementing change are 3.7 times more likely to achieve their objectives. Build on what's working, eliminate the rest, and celebrate what got you here while creating what will take you forward. But again, the culture must support the strategy and align with it. So here's a do one thing challenge that will help you align strategy with culture. And it's right at the intersection of strategy and culture. I want to invite you to commit to being the last person to speak in your next significant meeting. Now, I know as a people leader, you're used to speaking first most often. Frame your question clearly. Invite everyone else to share first. Tell them you're going to speak last and you want to hear from all of them. Take good notes, resist the urge to respond. And once everyone has spoken, then summarize what you heard, acknowledge great ideas, and share from your perspective. Because what happens is when you speak first, everyone else feels unheard, unvalued, and they're just going to many times agree with you at that point. Watch the transformation from a negative chaos to a positive culture begin as you're unleashing literally all the star power in that room. So if you're as extroverted as I am, or if you're defining your people leadership as the ability to have all the answers and to speak first, what you're doing is you're divorcing strategy and culture at that point. Instead, you want to release that star power and get the culture and the strategy aligned. And you literally are helping shape your strategy from all of those amazing people that are on your team. So it may be difficult for you to do. And it might, if you're as extroverted as me, it might be. So anybody think that's going to be a challenge for them to speak last in the next significant meeting? Just drop a yes in the comments. I appreciate your transparency, your honesty. It's a challenge for some of us, and it means transforming our mental mindset around people leadership as well, doesn't it? That S in the transform framework is for you to ensure strategy aligns with culture as you're transforming a negative chaos into a positive culture. And you speaking last in your next significant meeting will begin that process. So let's say that alignment's in place. Let's say strategy and culture are aligned. How do you ensure that alignment stays grounded during all the future change and chaos? That brings us to the F in the transform framework, and that is for you to lead people with a flexible confidence in a VUCA world that beats rigidity every single time. Kevin Eikenberry was my guest on the Work Positive podcast. Had Kevin on several times. He has so much to contribute to the Work Positive community. He taught me something really important the last time he was on, and that is how leaders transform best in the midst of the VUCA world. You remember that's volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. When you lock yourself into a single identity, then you're locking yourself out of adaptability. So this builds on Ira Wolf's AQ, the adaptability quotient. And what Kevin has found is that research has shown that when leaders develop those fixed identities around their style, here's the way I lead, they become unable to adapt in the face of all this change around us and the novel situations that we face daily. So the very thing that made them successful previously becomes an anchor, if you will, dragging them down. Kevin gave a great metaphor for how we can think about flexible leadership in a VUCA world and how it beats rigidity. He shared with me literally how to develop flexible confidence as a people leader, and I want to share that with you now. So let's listen to Kevin Eikenberry.
I believe that we want to build our identity around our values, which is different, right? If you look at a tree, or you think about a tree in your mind's eye right now, you will see that that tree is consistent and stable and long lasting, all things we would like to be as a leader. But that tree is also flexing in the breeze. Not the whole tree.
If it's still standing,
but
right?
But the leaves and the branches are flexing, right? In fact, they stop flexing, they become brittle. Tree's got a problem.
Yep.
So do we as leaders. And so what makes that tree stable, consistent, and long lasting is its roots. What are our roots as leaders? Our values, our purpose, the goals of the organization, etc. To recognize that flexing is valuable, that whatever the situation you find yourself in, you should consider how to respond, how to communicate, how to decide, how to act in that moment that will serve both outcomes and your team best in that moment. When we're thinking about balancing outcomes and others as a leader, we're creating a more positive workplace and we're creating better results.
I like when he talks about balancing outcomes and the people. That's really important because it's so easy to get focused on a task. We forget the people we're calling on to do the task, and we're just so focused. And conversely, it's easy to get so focused on the people and lose sight of the outcome. So I love the way he's talking about flexing there instead of reacting. And in the face of change, it really requires that flexibility and the confidence that comes with that to find your way and to navigate through that change. So here's your do one thing challenge for flexible confidence, beating a rigidity mindset around your leadership. Before you make a major decision, let me invite you to pause and ask yourself this question. What does this specific situation need from me right now? What does this specific situation need from me right now? And I want to invite you to write down your answer before you act. I mean, you can type it if you want to, but neuroscientists tell us that a pen and a piece of paper really work better for you in terms of cementing it into your memory. What does this specific situation need from me right now? Now, notice it's a specific situation. It's the change that you're facing at that moment right now and what it needs from you, particularly flexing around people and outcomes. Okay, so that's the F in the transform framework, and that's for flexible confidence in a VUCA world and moving away from a rigid identity to one that's able to flex. The question you're probably thinking is, how do I express this flexible confidence as I'm leading people, Dr. Joey? Well, that brings us to the O in the transform framework, and here's the best way to express that flexible confidence. The O is for one conversation at a time. Joey Havens was my guest on the Work Positive podcast, and he offered up a phrase that I absolutely love, and that is magnetic culture. Magnetic culture. You see, the people you lead give discretionary effort, they focus, they innovate, they create, they lean in. And Joey led his accounting firm, which became a very large national accounting firm, to have this kind of magnetized culture. And here's how he did it: one conversation at a time. So let's listen to Joey talk to us about this transformation process in which he emphasized one conversation at a time. Here's Joey.
We were being transparent about what stunk in our culture. We were being transparent that turnover was a problem.
Okay.
That the underrepresented group the turnover was 10% higher than the others. That women leaders at Pipeline was 38% and 60% of our team was women. So when we started reporting on that, members didn't know turnover was a problem. But now they did. So when they answered the survey honestly, because we told them this is a problem. We have got to fix this together. We've got to fix this. Then they started answering the surveys very honestly because they had a much better understanding of what success looks like.
So it got worse before it got better.
At the same time, think about that though. At the same time, our culture was stronger than ever before. People were leaning in, giving discretionary effort, which I call magnetic culture. That's when you get discretionary effort, you get focus. You're getting that, but externally, other than the people that are touching your organization, a survey is you're not going to score as high.
When people feel that they're part of the results, that they can bring some change themselves to the company, they're more likely to do what Joey's talking about. You see, we don't control the focus, the innovation, the creativity, the discretionary effort of, say, 70% of the workforce. Joey Havens is telling us that rather than exert control, he demonstrated care through these one conversations. It's much more than flexible. In fact, my friend Jody Thompson from GoRoad.com would tell us that it's not flexibility, it's a culture of trust. And that's exactly what Joey's talking about here. And he built that trust in the midst of all that change, one conversation at a time. So when you trust people to work for results, what are you saying? You're saying, I believe in you. I care about your whole life. I don't just care about your desk hours. And when people feel that, then they're all in. And it starts one conversation at a time. Now you may be thinking, hey, that's too big a task for me. I've got this huge team. That's okay. Just choose one person. Here's your do one thing challenge. Just choose one person on your team and schedule a conversation with them. Your only agenda is to listen. I like to schedule 30 minutes at least when I do this. Just ask them, what's one thing I could do to help you be more successful here? There's your one question. Just one question. What's one thing I could do to help you be more successful here? And again, just listen without defending, thank them for their answer. And as you leave that conversation, commit with them to one action based on what you've heard that in that conversation. What you're doing is you're transforming the negative chaos into a positive culture, and it's happening one such conversation at a time. The O in the transform framework is for one conversation at a time. So you have these single conversations. You know that adversity is still bubbling up somewhere else as you're having that one conversation. I mean, it's endemic to any culture transformation process, especially one that's proactively seeking out change. So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to determine how you will respond to that adversity that's bubbling up while you're having this one conversation. Will you let it trap you, or will you leverage it for a breakthrough? Now, I mean, who doesn't want to leverage change for a cultural breakthrough, right? Drop a yes in the comments if that's something you want to do. Let me figure out how to leverage change for a culture breakthrough. Well, we're going to do that right now. The second R in the transform framework is for respond to adversity for breakthroughs and leverage it well. You see adversity bubbles up even while you're having that great one conversation. It's coming from somewhere else. Even while you've got this relentless vision and you're transforming turmoil into triumph and you're being flexible with confidence, adversity is already there. I mean, you still got that toxic team member. You still got a market shifting without your permission or knowledge. It's a conflict that maybe you've avoided that comes to the surface finally. Perhaps there's a struggle at home. Who doesn't have some of those that bleed into work life? So you're just trying to survive adversity, right? You're ducking and you're dodging and you're just hoping it goes away. Are you treating it like an enemy to defeat or an obstacle to overcome? Probably. But what if the opposite is true? What if the opposite is true and that adversity can become an opportunity for a breakthrough for you as a people leader? Anybody able to remember a time that you thought you would not make it through the adversity, but you did and you came out on the other side better? I can remember one of those. Drop a yes in the comments if you can remember a time when you thought there's no way anything good can come out of this, and you actually came out on the other side better than you went in. Drop a yes in the comments as you're remembering that. I wish we had time for everybody to tell their own stories. Adam Kasich is a friend of mine who told a story in the Work Positive podcast as I interviewed him. He's a breakthrough specialist. He's worked with hundreds of individuals over 15 to 20 years. And he described for me on the Work Positive podcast about this perspective shift that can foster a change at work culture so that we can go from seeing adversity as an obstacle to an opportunity for a breakthrough. Let's listen to Adam Kasich describe it in his own words. Okay, looks like we're having some challenges getting Adam up and running for you there. So basically what Adam talks about culminates in this do one thing challenge. What Adam talks about here is what he calls a mirror exercise. Now, when you do this mirror exercise, you want to do it in a private place where you can shut the door and nobody will come in on you. Okay. You may have some explaining to do. Right. So you want to stand in front of a mirror, first of all, and look into your own eyes. Look into your own eyes. I don't know when's the last time you did that. You literally looked into your eyes, not to put on mascara or eyeliner or something, but just to stand in front of a mirror and look into your own eyes. Okay. Then you want to spend about 60 seconds remembering who you are, the challenges that you've overcome, and the strengths that you have. You see, you're bringing to mind a positive experience. Then you want to ask yourself, based on that positive experience, when you made it through that adversity and had a breakthrough, you want to ask yourself, how can I leverage this current adversity for a breakthrough? How can I leverage this current adversity for a breakthrough? Write it down and make sure that you read it really often. And that's how you can literally respond to adversity for breakthroughs. That's the R in transform. So let me just go back and recap where we are in the transform framework so far. The T is for transforming turmoil into triumph. Secondly, you lead consistently with your relentless vision. The R is for relentless vision in transform that overcomes uncertainty. Then you adapt to all this change management. Thirdly, by implementing the A in the transform framework, your adaptability quotient, your AQ is vital. Fourth, the N in the transform framework is for your need to know yourself as you change and become a better people leader. Fifth, that S in transform is for you to ensure strategy aligns with culture as you transform negative chaos into a positive culture. Sixth, Kevin Eikenberry gave us the F in the transform framework, which is for flexible confidence in a VUCA world. And you're leading out of that flexible confidence, right? Rather than the rigid identity. Seventh, the O, Joey Havens told us in the transform framework, is for that one conversation at a time. And as Adam helped us understand, the second R in the transform framework that we just heard about is for respond to adversity for breakthroughs. So we see them as opportunities to leverage the adversity. So there's a final step that I want to share with you, and that's the M. The final step to leveraging change at work by transforming its negative chaos into a positive culture. And that is to remember, to remind yourself, it sounds obvious, but we need reminding, at the end of every workday, it's ultimately about the people. So the M in the transform framework is for manage people well. Leor Arusi was on the Work Positive podcast with me, and he told me a story about a snowy day in New Jersey. In fact, he referred to it as the day a flat tire transformed culture for a vehicle dealership. They discovered how to manage people well during change. So let's listen to Leor tell the story now. And we may be having some trouble with Leor. Looks like we're experiencing some challenges here. So let me tell you what Leor told us about this story then, since apparently we aren't going to be able to listen to Leor here. So I'll just tell you the story. Leor told the story on the Work Positive podcast episode that a customer came into a vehicle dealership with a flat tire one day, and there was no tire that size available anywhere. And the customer was a mom, and she was obviously very distressed about the situation, more than just about a flat tire. So the service advisor asked her, ma'am, I'm sorry you're upset. What can I do for you? She said, my son's playing soccer at 4:00, and I promised him I'd be there. She realized that she wasn't going to be able to be there if they didn't have a tire. So a technician in the background overheard this conversation, and he thought for a moment, and he remembered the exact make and model vehicle as the mom sat in the showroom. So he grabbed a floor jack and wheeled it into the showroom, removed the tire from the brand new car in the showroom, left that brand new car in the showroom on a jack, and installed it on the mom's car. And went to her and said, "Ma'am, your car's ready. You can make your son's soccer game at 4." And the mom began crying. She said, "No one has ever treated me this well." So as Leor told that story on the Work Positive podcast, I'm standing there thinking, and maybe you're thinking the same thing right now, what happened with the brand new car up on the jack? The dealership left that car on the jack far after they got a new tire in from the tire dealership. In fact, the sales team used to take customers to that showroom floor and tell them, "Look, you can buy a car anywhere." But let me tell you the story about this mom who came in, and they told that story over and over and over. "You can buy a car anywhere," the salespeople would say, "but who's going to do this for you?" Man, I love that story. Don't you? Don't you love that story? Drop a yes in the comments if you love that story. That's managing people well, because what's happening is growing them. Instead of enslaving them to archaic processes and tools, it would have been so easy for them to just say, "Hey, we don't have a tire. We don't know when we can get a tire. Figure it out on your own." When you manage people well and release them to be all of who they are, even in the midst of this negative chaos, they transform into a positive culture. So here's your do one thing challenge for manage people well. Just ask your team, what's one process we're following that makes no sense anymore? What is one process we're following that makes no sense anymore? And just listen without defending, list those processes, and just pick one of them to eliminate or to simplify this month. And watch the culture transform as you manage your people well and identify with them instead of just choosing the same old tools and processes. So now we've gone through the transform framework and you've seen each piece of it right now. The T is for transform turmoil into triumph. The R is for relentless vision overcomes uncertainty. The A is for the adaptability quotient. AQ is vital. The N is for need to know yourself. The S for strategy aligns with culture. The F for flexible confidence in a VUCA world. The O is for one conversation at a time. The R is for respond to adversity for breakthroughs. And the M is for manage people well. So I want to give you a gift here on our way out. I know this framework is wonderful. I know that we covered 9 different change at work culture transformation strategies in a very short period of time. Here's what I want to do is to give you the book that will explain more about each of these 9 strategies so that you can read it for yourself and really immerse yourself in the change at work culture transformation strategies. If you are on Amazon, and who's not, right? If you have a Kindle, you can get a free Kindle copy right now. If you're live with us during this week, a free Kindle copy is available right now. The Amazon link is showing up in your comments even now. So we'll go ahead and put those there so that you can find that for yourself. So you see, it's going to pop up in just a second as a comment for you there. You can go to Amazon and find Change at Work, Dr. Joey Fawcett, and you can click that link to make it happen. Also, if you're watching this and the Kindle book is no longer free, when you go to Amazon, just send me a message, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or YouTube or Instagram, wherever you are. Just send me a message and say, "Hey, I watched your Change at Work video, your live experience. I'd like a free digital copy," and we will deliver one to you. Also, remember that when you go to our website at workpositive.today, the Work Positive Culture Assessment is available to you 24/7. That's at workpositive.today, so you can figure out where you are in your own culture transformation. So go to Amazon right now, get a copy of the free Kindle book, or if you're watching this later, be sure, and you see the link there, be sure to DM me on whatever platform you're watching this, and I'll be happy to send you a copy. Thanks so much. Change is everywhere. Now you've got our Change at Work culture strategy to make the transformation happen for you. Thanks so much for spending the time with us. Thanks. We appreciate you, Work Positive community. Take good care and stay warm out there.